Hi, I am Kim, co-founder, Chief Operations Officer and 3D designer at Viewalk. I would like to thank Nordic VR Forum and Keith Mellingen for inviting me to talk about what I love the most, designing virtual worlds for immersive spaces. My background is in architecture, having pioneered visual storytelling for design and marketing, with VR starting in the mid-90s and following up with interactive AR in 2011, years ahead of the tech becoming mainstream. As a lifetime gamer, I love exploring virtual worlds and real-life nature alike. And I have a deep passion for designing novel digital experiences using insights from art and science. After a brief intro to Viewalk, I will share how we quickly create value for the customer by iterating in small batches, before diving into some of the challenges of designing walkable virtual worlds. I will close with lessons from architecture and cinema to aid our games to be easy to pick up and fun to play. Viewalk was founded by developer and CEO Bengt-Ove Sandnes and myself in the late 2021, after the technology had been in development by Bengt-Ove since the birth of ARKit in 2017. We have combined our love for physical activity, gaming, and new technologies for a groundbreaking spatial way to interact with virtual worlds using a device you already have. Gaming is good for you. Besides the entertainment value, it can make you better at problem solving, improve your vision, and let you learn faster. It is also a very important social arena for lots of people. But we don't want to end up like this. A sedentary lifestyle can lead to a number of issues, from back pain to increased BMI, diabetes, and colon cancer. It can affect an individual's quality of life, and the societal costs are enormous. Viewalk enabled gamers of all ages to play and explore virtual worlds on their own 2 feet. Compared to sitting still, this provides increased immersion and is better for both your body and your brain. If we can shift just a fraction of the 2.7 billion players of mobile games into spending an hour or 30 minutes a week playing physical games instead of sitting down, it will be a huge win for the health of the world population. So how do we create these games? Well, there's little doubt that iterating in small batches makes for better products faster. For us, it has been an essential ingredient to developing our platform and the content. Most games in our MVP were designed by 4 students from Christiania University College doing their bachelor project. Together with us, they worked agile for 4 months in 1-week sprints. The shorter a sprint, the less of a risk, the more you will learn, and the quicker you get to a working product. When you make something novel, it is critical to work in small batches. Many of the things you try may not work well, and then you really want to fail fast. We wasted less than a day finding out that Pong in Viewalk was not a great fit. Equally important is testing often. How many of you test what you create daily? How about several times an hour? Snowball fighting in Viewalk does indeed work, but it's not yet fun enough. Our need to quickly iterate in small batches required developing our own publishing platform in Unreal Engine 4. Our app on iPhone and iPad contains only core functionality, and our games are all loaded on demand. We automate the cooking of the games, the upload of them to the cloud, and we can play them in a couple of minutes after we have published. We are making walkable handheld games and have few references to lean on. For this 1v1 level, I needed to iterate to ensure the pistol was not too powerful, and find the right time between shots and reloading, balancing movement speed, and how to use cover. Let's take a look at the gameplay video from a sprint review I had. How do you go about designing worlds for a walkable virtual game experience? It turns out it is more similar to designing for real-life architecture and less like building for a traditional VR game. Unless you are playing location-based VR, most VR games will make you stand in place, pressing buttons to move your body. But unlike LBVR, Viewalk doesn't care where you are physically in the world, just how you move your body and your device. Our unique and easy-to-use controller tracks your position and movement in the world. Simultaneously, you can override your virtual movement whenever the physical and the virtual worlds don't align. This lets you play indoors as well as outdoors, alone or with others, in the same place or over the internet. That said, we do have to consider how much floor space the player has access to in the physical world. The big lesson we had early on was to create much smaller game levels than we were familiar with from traditional first-person shooters like Counter-Strike or Battlefield. One of the smallest games I have worked on, Black and White, or Arctic Lockdown, which is called by now, is designed for 2 players in a 1v1 deathmatch. It is playable in your office or a single room in your apartment. What can we take from architectural design when crafting such virtual spaces? In real-life architecture, a lobby serves a key function as an entryway to the building. The more open and readable it is, the easier for us to determine the affordances of the architectural space. In real life, you never enter a place without spatial context from what came before. Your arrival is the result of a continuous movement through space, placing the building in a natural habitat. For virtual environments, the first space we arrive at has to provide all of the spatial context for the entire world. In games and virtual spaces, the spawn area is a possibility space, similar to lobbies in real-world architecture. In this PvP level design, we see at least 3 paths, taking us forward to what we anticipate would be the location of the enemy. Like real-life architecture and HMD-based VR, a walkable virtual space will mostly require a real-life scale design. In these designs, it is useful to include objects that are familiar to players and ensure they are at correct scale. Having arrived, how can we aid people navigating architecture and games alike? We create spatial maps, mental spatial maps, when we navigate real and virtual worlds. These maps help us orient ourselves and make smart decisions about where to go next. More than 50 years ago, MIT professor and author Kevin Lynch researched this and wrote the book The Image of the City. He concluded that the elements paths, edges, districts, nodes, and landmarks are key to forming our mental spatial maps. For this large and work-in-progress Viewalk level for a demolition game mode inspired by CSGO's level Dust 2, I organized the island into 3 distinct districts. There is the affluent port district on the right, consisting of colonial-style buildings. The remnants of the natural island is on the left with some rocks and sand. And there's a rickety wooden shanty town at the far side. These different architectural typologies create clear edges between the three districts. The paths and nodes are naturally formed, allowing numerous ways for players to traverse the level. The clock tower works as a landmark that helps players orient themselves on the map, since it's visible from many locations on the island. The resulting design is a memorable and easy to understand one. This makes it straightforward to navigate and fun to play. This is key because not only are you playing on a small screen, you are also, although with little mental effort, walking and navigating the real world at the same time. We have seen how design lessons from architecture can increase the fun and aid players to navigate virtual worlds. Let's take a look at one lesson from cinema that adds on to this. In the world of cinema and games, color grading refers to the manipulation of images to create consistent color tones throughout the experience. It is also key to ensuring that scenes creates the right emotional impact, and it can aid in making characters and scenes read better. Teal and orange is one of the most popular grading styles in Hollywood, having everything to do with skin tones. It is also about creating contrast and depth. Teal and orange have the highest contrast between their exposure values of any pair of complementary colors. This creates depth in the image, separating the foreground from the background. While you don't yet have sexy human actors with natural-looking skin colors in Viewalk, we do want color consistency and contrast in our scenes. This will make characters stand out against backgrounds for improving gameplay and orientation. While Unreal Engine allows real-time color grading using post-processing, it is not optimized for mobile devices. Instead, we apply color grading to the shaders to change the look of materials with minimal performance impact. The warm interior is consistent in look and contrasts the colder-looking exterior. The colorful red and blue player characters contrast the near monochrome architecture, making it easy for players to move and play in the space. One improvement could be to brighten the interior elements to provide more distinct silhouettes against the exterior wall. The presented lessons from architecture and cinema are some of the strategies we use to design our games at Viewalk. I hope they've given you some insights and inspiration for your immersive VR and AR projects, even if you aren't designing for walkable virtual worlds like us. If you are curious to see how these games play in real life, check out the app on the App Store if you have an iPhone or an iPad. Thanks so much for listening.